It all started in a basement a number of years ago. A group of friends were gathered around a television playing one of the GameCube Mario Party games. The minigame in which vines grow out of the ground and onto the sky appeared on the screen. A random member of the Broker Me was said to have uttered, "Doesn't it look like those vines are growing out of an ass?" 14 years ago, internet culture was permanently altered forever when self-professed jabroni Vinny Vinesauce broke out onto the scene. Vinny, along with friends such as Joel, Limes, Rev, and many more, made a name for themselves with their personality-driven, mostly video game-based live streaming, fostering a huge community, all under the umbrella of Vinesauce. A load, and I mean a load, of jokes, gags, and references that originated from one-off bits these guys have done have become so deeply intertwined into streaming and the larger culture of the internet as a whole that I doubt all but a few of the most dedicated scholars of the source can name them all. Many a concept for a stream was born and or popularized by this group during their heyday. Joel showed us the wonders of virtual machines and granddads. We were shown the deepest pits of bootleggery and meat. The community as a whole showed us the pure beauty of what a game could look like repainted, and one member wowed audiences by managing to achieve a world record speedrun of nuking your career. But of all the trends set in motion by the group, Vinny himself is known most of all for his corruption streams, if we're going by YouTube views anyway. Vinny has spent years showcasing the ensuing hilarity that comes with grinding up a game's insides while it's still alive to scream and flail in front of you, with results that are iconic to say the least. But on one fateful day in 2012, whilst corrupting Super Mario World, Vinny improv'd a bit that would go on to achieve internet infamy.
Mario, it's new Super Mario World. Everything's different. Luigi, I've been a plumber for 34 years. Do you think I actually go to some kind of mushroom kingdom, Luigi? I don't. I just trip really hard on LSD and I f some prostitutes. Mario, I've been there with you to the mushroom kingdom. No, you haven't, Luigi. You have terminal 7 brain cancer. I don't even know what that means, but it's bad. This is all in your head, Luigi. It's in your imagination. There's no such thing as the Mushroom Kingdom.
It was clipped, animated, homaged, and referenced to Death and Back. The Terminal 7 bit quickly became one of the most popular and undying jokes amongst the Vinesauce community. Vinny himself made allusions to it in later streams, adding onto it and essentially creating this alternative universe gag version of the Super Mario lore, one in which Mario was a degenerate drug addict barely managing to take care of his dying, terminally ill brother who lives in a fantasy land of mushroom kingdoms and princesses. Oh, and Toad is Mario's cop. So, why the hell am I talking about a 12-year-old joke from a live stream highlights video? Because Half-Life 2 turned 20. In 2017, a mod for Half-Life 2 under the name Terminal 7 was released. It's a full conversion, completely original campaign based off of the Vinesauce bit, which contains a multitude of fourth wall breaking, game convention shattering moments, and it's one of my favourite mods for any game I've ever played in my entire life. To quote the game's readme file, here's the plot. Luigi has been captured by Bowser and is being held within the Goomba Fortress. It is up to you, Luigi, to make your way back home. You have to warn Mario of Bowser's plans and in turn help him save the Princess Peach. Waluigi's in here too. So the game begins with Luigi waking up to find himself in the Goomba Fortress. Although, I gotta say, it's looking a whole lot less whimsical than I thought it was going to. After exploding the wall a teensy bit and getting a pair of pliers, you manage to escape your cell 26 to be precise, and you find that something has gone awry. But not letting the opportunity go to waste, you work your way up into the cafeteria and find a few Goombas and some wake-up pills, which you promptly devour, giving Luigi the ability to duck and jump. After some classic source physics puzzle action, you find your first living Koopa Trooper in the kitchen, where upon entering, Luigi finds a pot, allowing him to finally fight back against his captors. Exploring, you can also come across some signs for areas inaccessible to you, one of them reading there's the main ward. After making your way further through the fortress, the game reveals a mechanic entirely original: stealth. Yeah, just like Bethesda games or the far superior Family Guy game, Luigi can hide in the shadows, which is a definite help because with only a frying pan to defend yourself, a Koopa armed with an SMG can fuck you up if you're not careful. Eventually, the amount of Koopas overwhelms Luigi and he's forced to make a break for it, smashing through a window and coming across a pipe as his only means of escape. After hopping inside, you're taken to the sewers, where there's a pretty effective and well done stealth section, while you avoid armed troops and further your escape. It's very reminiscent of King Kong, the official game of the official movie! Although, after a while, things start to change. The environment becomes far more bleak. But forget about that, because you made it through the pipes and into an underwater wonderland. Even Unagi is out and about, and after finding an explosive crate and taking it over to a crater, you're blasted out into the surface, where you find a carnival on the beach, and a shitload of Koopas, Goombas, and Toads waiting for you. Despite the wacky hijinks, the location itself is still weirdly dark and isolating like the latter half of the sewers. If you weren't busy blasting away enemies, you might even stop to think about what you're really doing. But enough of that, because after blasting through all the baddies, you make it to the subway, and after Luigi quickly disposes of the inhabitants, you can finally breathe for a moment, take in your surroundings, and hop on the train. But this isn't right. You're supposed to be finding Mario and Peach, and this definitely doesn't look like where you'd find them. This isn't right at all. This is I don't understand.
Let's go.
Oh, that's more like it. What follows is a surprisingly brutal first-person platforming section. It's got it all. Exploding platforms, instant death spikes, ice physics. You could call it tough. Old school tough. Okay, it's not that bad. I'm just inhumanly stupid. But upon victory, this blissful delusion fades away into the streets of the city. So by this point, I really hope you've come to see just how bloody ambitious this mod is. In the span of just a few chapters, it's managed to mash together wildly different tones and styles effortlessly into a way that flows extremely well. It's really impressive, and it uses the crutch of expectations from being a game based off that one meme to its advantage to really surprise the player when things do open up. Luigi wanders through the streets of what I can only guess is New Donk City like he's in a level of Max Payne before finally making it home to Mario's apartment. Apartment 26. And what follows is intricate environmental storytelling for the Terminal 7 game. As you wander through the apartment, several things stand out and trigger dialogue from Luigi. I'm not allowed to use the phone anymore. Rules. No TV after 9 PM. There's a bag of dog food in the kitchen. Yoshi loves this stuff. And alongside it, a crib. I wonder how Peach is doing. After experiencing these heartbreaking mental images, you can make your way into Luigi's room, where the truth becomes even clearer. Mario says this is a picture of me, but I don't believe him. Good times. So, after exploring and seeing all this unfold, you might be asking, where's Mario? His room is locked, but after rooting around his things, you find the key. And upon walking through the dark, you find him.
My name is Mario, brother to Luigi. I'm a plumber, and a poor one at that. I'm also dead, and my brother might or might not be by the time anyone is reading this. If you're a concerned neighbor, or just a very stubborn mailman, I apologize for your inevitable therapy following the discovery of my corpse. If you're Luigi's caretakers, or the police, or SWAT, or whatever else team is going after him, fuck you. The hollow shell, once known as my brother, God bless him, escaped the building you were supposed to keep him locked into this morning. You have time and time again fucked me so hard that you have robbed me of my future. Everything. I cannot and will not deal with this future anymore. Wherever you are, I love you, Peach. I'm sorry it had to go this way. The system will pay for Luigi's well-being. No one else. Goodbye, world.
What follows this is one of the most genuinely unnerving sequences from any piece of fan media I've ever consumed. After realizing there is nothing you can do for your brother, you leave the way you came in, but you do not re-enter the apartment. You're consumed, shrouded in total darkness, with only the sound of your footsteps to guide you, forcing you to turn up the volume and thus the tension. You see several visions, a wall of 26s, what seems to be a cell, and the same wall again but with the scribblings becoming ever more manic. Eventually, the footsteps become trudges through slime and water as the visions become darker and darker until... Genuinely, during the playthrough I did to capture footage for this, which isn't even my first playthrough, I just forgot this was going to happen and it scared the shit out of me. We see Luigi looking like the shell his brother said he was, and then we see him ripped apart, hanging like meat in a freezer. But then, reality returns. Luigi, God knows how, has managed to get a car and is on a quest to find the princess. Well, I can't say I expected this guy in a car to end well anyway. You make your way through the snow and the fog and you find Peach's castle. The house is cold and dilapidated, seemingly completely abandoned and a wreck. The television is running and there's surgical tools strewn about coated in blood. Wherever we are, the princess isn't here. Only place left to go is the basement. The game then completely transitions to a point-and-click old-school survival horror. You slowly make your way through the basement while the ambience beats down on you. It's incredibly effective, and at this point in the experience, despite the goofy Mario models and the silly setup, all that just melts away and the pure dread it's presenting to you is, like, shockingly good. I know, that sounds like an insane statement and pure glazing, but I'm serious. Play this alone, in the dark, with the volume cranked up like I did, and this whole segment is fucking petrifying. If there had been a jump scare during any of this, I would have passed away from a corner. Eventually, you reach a room with a bath, a corpse, and a table of papers, but upon examining it, you're stopped dead in your tracks by a complete psychotic break. The narrative completely shatters. You're consumed by the events that have happened and are surrounded with enemies of all types and ample ammunition. The only thing left to do is kill them all. You make your way through detached remnants of what once was reality and pick off all who come in your path, one by one. Koopas, yourself in a twisted, horrible form. Even Mario appears, flying towards you in screaming agony. Wario's here too. After the violence and the bloodshed, when there's nothing left to do and nothing left to see, Luigi retreats entirely into his own mind. You're back in your happy place. Back in the Mushroom Kingdom, where everything makes sense. But the damage is already done. The illusion can only hold itself together for a few moments before deteriorating and decaying before your very eyes. But you make your way through it anyway, because really, what other choice do you have? And then... this concludes Terminal 7. For today's snack time, me and my boyfriend decided to honour a British tradition by getting a Morrison salad, otherwise known as a mozzie sal. This specific delicacy is beloved by British people because it allows you to fill your face with pasta, sauce and bacon bits and call it a salad so you don't feel bad about yourself. My boyfriend is particularly partial to the potato salad. I did what I always do and got every single thing crammed into the box so hard I couldn't shred it and then washed it all down with a monster energy. Overall, I give this salad a number that's higher than the criteria because that's the funny joke. If you want to join the Tederic Cool Ass Mofos Club, then get yourself a mozzie sal and send me a picture on social media. Sorry Americans, you lose by default. Fuck you, ha! Terminal 7 is one of the most impressive pieces of modding I have ever seen. This game is a true testament not only to the Source Engine's capabilities, but of the creativity and ingenuity of its community. Its constant hopping around genres and moods never feels like it's disjointed or unfocused. It all works together so much better than any YouTube video could ever convince you of. The ending segment recreating Super Mario Bros. Is such an amazing proof of concept. Like, this is running in Source. How is this even possible? And the story is fittingly devastating. I love when a piece of media has a concept so wild and potentially terrible, but it commits and runs with it. This could have been just a 10-minute little gag game which exists solely to reference a funny haha internet joke and then be completely forgotten to the annals of internet tomfoolery. But instead, it goes big and it stays big for its entire run. The plot that's put in front of the player seems pretty cut and dry. Luigi's living in a fantasy due to a brain condition and the game is his life falling apart around him. But the specifics of the plot are pretty open-ended. The amount of the story which is fantasy and the amount which is reality is far more blurred than you're initially led to believe. So I'm going to go in a bit of a game theory here and put together a little storyline I managed to piece together because the further you look, the deeper it gets. So, Mario and Luigi are brothers, living paycheck to paycheck in an undisclosed city which I'm just going to call Brooklyn. Mario has a significant other who is represented by Peach. They have a dog called Yoshi, and seemingly a child on the way. At an unknown point, Luigi is diagnosed with brain cancer, assumingly a tumour, which causes him to suffer from delusions and a form of psychosis, leading him to move in with his brother so he can be cared for. As his condition worsens, Luigi further loses touch with reality and restructures the world in his mind. He no longer recognizes himself, and the true people of his life, colleagues, friends, and family become fuzzy distortions, recast as colourful cartoon characters to soothe Luigi's continually regressing mind. Who knows if Peach, Mario, and Luigi are even their true names? It's fully likely that Mario is a game series that exists in the context of this just like in real life, and that's what Luigi's illusions have attached onto. But it's also just as likely that Toad is Mario's
That was my god.
Mario and Peach are buried in medical bills, and due to Mario's career as a plumber just not sufficing to support everyone, things go south very quickly. We're never outright told what happens to Peach, but when you reach the castle, there's some clues. The bloody scalpels, which seem like a red herring when first seeing them, gain a new meaning when you descend into the basement. At the end of the point-and-click segment, there's that body that you discover in a bath, and it's laid in a very specific way, in the way of somebody who is maybe killed themselves. And seeing as this is right before Luigi completely falls into a psychotic break, my theory is that this was Peach's fate, and being reminded of it was just too much for Luigi to bear in the moment. After this event, Mario is forced to send Luigi away into an institution due to not being able to cope with caring and providing for Luigi on his own anymore. And eventually, unable to keep going with the life he's leading, Mario goes to see Peach himself in the great beyond. And here's where I might get a bit controversial with my take, but I think that Luigi's grand escape to find his brother, everything you do throughout the game, is a full-on fantasy right from the beginning. None of this is actually happening, and Luigi never leaves his cell. There's a few pointers to this. There's graffiti that you find during the full breakdown, the whimsical nature of how Luigi gets about, and the fact that when he does truly break down, the fragments of reality that we do see are of the ward, not of any of the other locations that Luigi's visited. I also think the escape itself is just too convenient. We never get an explanation as to why there's a pair of pliers waiting for Luigi, and how the guard in his way is magically dead, giving him the opportunity for his escape. How the blast from the explosive crate doesn't just kill him, how he's able to get a car, and how he's able to just know exactly where to go every step of the way. What I believe is the reality of events is this. Unable to afford any more of Luigi's crippling medical bills, Mario takes his own life. That fucking sentence out of context to ensure that Luigi's care is paid for by the state, and Luigi eventually discovers this news, either by a doctor or a visitor, it really doesn't matter. Hearing of yet another passing indirectly caused by his condition provides guilt too great to bear, so Luigi retreats into his mind completely right from the get-go, formulating this grand delusion where he's able to be the hero and save the day, but the illusion is unable to maintain its cartoonish whimsy for long. The truth is just too terrible to fully hide away from, and no matter how hard Luigi tries to stay in the fantasy, it always crumbles, until the fantasy fully degrades. The recreation of Super Mario Bros. At the end is the peak of Luigi's mental decline. Essentially vegetizing himself, this is the only kind of life he's able to visualize. And even then, the truth catches up to him. This mod is a marvel. It's technically impressive, fun to play, and gives the player just enough to examine, but leaves enough to keep it stuck in your mind long after the credits roll. It's a real work of art, and I implore you to download it and give it a go, even if I have just spoiled the shit out of it for you. Despite its age, here's hoping that it can get ported over to the workshop now that that's live. Shortly after its release, Vinny Vinesauce himself played through the whole thing on stream and made a highlight reel out of it. He cracks some jokes, does the funny haha voices, but the real treat to this is watching Vinny realize in real time, right before his very eyes, that something that started out as a silly bit he came up with on the spot years ago had transformed into something almost unrecognizable. At a certain point, he just gives up on adding to the bit and just enjoys the mod for what it is, taken fully aback by how good it is, and he treats it as something entirely separate from what inspired it. Because it is. It may have started as a meme, but now, in this form, it meant something.
Oh, help me, please, doctor, I'm damaged. There's a pain where there once was a heart. It's sleeping, it's a beating.